very important to think of our children as fully developed souls, so that we recognize that as we look for our purpose or our place not only on this planet or in our communities, but in our solar system and beyond, that if we perceive our children in that way, that preparing them, because they will go into space. In our state in New Mexico, we are at this moment creating a station which will allow public, everyday people to go out into space. What will they bring back? And so, in terms of future education, or even the education of our children now, though they live in the cities and they don't see the stars, it's important for us to bring the conversation and the consciousness of the universe into their daily life. In the past, and it was part of the intelligence of humanity. How did they, in their tiny little boats, travel across the oceans or across continents? They used the stars. And so we want to bring information to the children so that within their creative consciousness, their creative environment, they can say the earth and the stars and find their place and explore that not only mathematically, because again, science has to have at its base a creative mind, a mind that says, what if we put this together and that together, or if this were possible, or if there were this kind of solution out there. And we have to develop within the young people that holographic perspective, so that intelligence comes beyond linear formats. I think it would be wonderful if we developed a program, or even some kind of packaged tools, beginning in childhood, for example, where parents could begin to learn how themselves, to become educated themselves, to educate their children beyond learning to read, for example.
Well, you know, it's also interesting that parents think that they have to be the ones who already know, and that they have to be a certain authority figure, and they in themselves have stopped learning. And I think that one of the things that parents can begin to do is start learning themselves and have the love of learning, and that will instill something in their children, and that it's okay for parents to goof up or
to say, I don't know, let's discover together. We can explore, whether it's in a book or in Google or by standing outside.
It could be any number of things. And I think that, you know, by beginning to have the parents feel like they can have a new adventure, and that they don't have to know everything, and that that the child within them is ready to learn, always open and exploring and expressive, and also that as your child is growing, that the world of learning isn't separate from the world of living.
Absolutely.
And the world of loving.
Now, Navjit, you recently have brought into this world the magical experience, the divine sacred experience of giving birth to a child, Leonardo. And so talk to us for a moment about your image of how to educate him, or what's been happening in terms of even this small child.
Well, one of the things that you really see with a child is how quickly they are growing. It's everything is being absorbed. And also, you know, issues come up for you as a parent of like, you know, what am I in this equation? Because you're changing. Because before you weren't a parent, and now suddenly your sense of self is shifting. One of the main things that I found to be really important for a new baby, a fresh little thing, is to be present and to listen, to slow down. And I think that's something that we have forgotten in this world, because we're creating technology that says get everything done, you know, faster than the next guy, you know, fast speed internet connection, telephones, cell phones, and so it's zip, 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 zip. And with a child, their brains are much faster than that, but you have to slow down to kind of feel where
slow down and expand.
Exactly.
And one of the things that I think is so interesting in terms of giving birth or becoming parents, because men are becoming wonderful parents as well, loving and nurturing parents.
And this is a real education.
Which is an education for both. And so what I think is delightful in terms of that slowing down is the expansion of the consciousness, so that you tap in a deep level, in a psychic level, in a spiritual level with your child. We know, for example, that very quickly the mother and father learn, is this a cry of distress? Is the child trying to make sounds? Is the child tired? Is something bothering them or hurting them? That capacity to tune into the messages of the child will function on a profound level as you grow as a parent and as your child grows. I remember going to Russia and being amazed with a group called Club Healthy Family, in which the mothers could tell when the child was going to urinate, and they would hold the child away because they didn't have the luxury of portable diapers. And so they learned to tune in. Can you imagine what that means? Think about it for a second. To the physiological processes of your child, and how that allows you to begin a level of communication that helps a child to feel secure, but also cues the child as to the world around. One of the things that I've learned in raising children and studying children is that by the age of about 6 months, they learn to tune into the mother and father, so that if you're holding your child up and you're showing your child to a stranger, the child will cue from the mother or the father, do we like this person we're talking to? Is this a stranger that could be, that we want to stay away from because we think the stranger could bring germs to the child, or we don't like the philosophy of the stranger, or is this family? The child very quickly, by 6 months, learns the difference between family and stranger.
And imagine, I mean, just think of that ability that it's just creating that level of distinction.
That's right.
And just not through verbal cues or instructions, but through the energy of the shifting energies between the parents and whoever they're coming close to.
Studying that, recognizing that there is this level, this profound level of energy exchange is a part of the education. And so the parent very quickly must become conscious that they are cueing their child. So often parents are, if I drop the child, or if I let you touch the child, or if you're carrying the child around. I remember with my first child, taking her into the jungles of Bolivia at 2 months, and the people running out, they'd never seen a white child. And so they wanted to carry my child off, and it took a tremendous discipline to immediately say to me, their intention is love. Do not be afraid to allow the child to see something new, new kinds of faces or new environments, but to see that as an adventure. If you are not afraid, your child will not be afraid. And I see the difference between children that smile at strangers and children that cry immediately in the face of a stranger. And so we want to begin the world of a child by messaging through our own consciousness and energy. The world is safe. You can look out there, and that they can feel that your presence is there, whether you're actually there or not. I also learned that because we are in a world where we send our children to babysitters, to someone else as we go off in the world, that you can message to your child, even as a baby, your presence. I used to send the smell of my milk to my children, and they never cried with babysitters, and they were always amazed. And so I know that you and your husband have that capacity too, to always say, I'm here, I'm here, everything's fine.
And I think that sense of fine isn't, again, like you said, about the space, it's about your attitude.
Not about safety.
Exactly, and it's also, it's the energy field that you're constantly radiating out, and the child feels connected to that.
That's right.
And they want to belong to that.
That's right.
And because you're including them, whether it's you're physically close to them or at a spatial distance, they feel part of the story, that whether you're going out to work. And what happens, I think, for a lot of people is that when they are at work or they have to do something away from the child, is this feeling that they're not there, that there's a feeling of guilt or separation or anxiety, and that's what the child then begins to pick up on.
I know when I go into people's offices, whether it's the bank or something, there are always the pictures of the children.